There's a question at the back here.
Yeah, there are some other Twitter ones, but
Okay.
well, just before the question, I think the context of that Labor's move on law and order in the second last Clark government, I think, Parliament, was that awful redneck referendum that 90% of the people wanted more pain and misery for prisoners and so on. So I think Labor was trying to dance two tunes there, perhaps. It was a hard place to be, having had to put up the referendum in the election that year. My question is about the ultra-fast fibre broadband project and the cheap financing that Stephen Joyce seems to have arranged. I can't make up my mind whether it's a sweetheart deal for his cronies in private industry or a cunning method of financing that, if it works, should be applied much more widely and avoid private hoo-ha partnerships and all that kind of moonshine. Can you please explain a bit more about the mechanism and what you think about it?
Oh, that's a great question, but we haven't got 2 hours.
No.
I know Claire could
No,
talk.
I won't, and I won't.
But
You know, on the broadband issue first, the intentions are good to connect the vast majority of New Zealanders to ultra-fast broadband. The mechanisms are deeply flawed, and they're deeply flawed because it's creating a new monopoly, which is a largely private enterprise monopoly, which won't have the ability to have as much external scrutiny on it as it should have, and ultimately in the long run we're worried that it will make connecting people to broadband less affordable than it should be, and this is the critical issue, accessibility, because if you're relying on just a market model using government money, then the people that need it the most and who can benefit from it the most, if you want to address inequality issues, are likely to still be needing it in 10 years' time and won't be getting access to it because they're not the ones who have the money to afford take-up.
should broadband be a legal right?
I believe that I believe personally that it should be a human right.
So it's like an essential service that...
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and so you try to persuade your colleagues about this?
You know, watch my policy coming out. Look at the copyright policy that has been released.
Someone else has asked about this on Twitter. Briefly, can you explain why you've done a flip-flop on this?
Well, it's about taking my caucus with me on an issue that they didn't understand.
So you've managed to flip-flop them, is that what's happened?
Well, yeah, and this is an issue that's happening right around the world in every parliament, around trying to actually understand the challenges of the digital age and why people are accessing information the way they are and how the laws are so far behind.
Okay,
Is law the right way to address the problem at all? Like, in the sense that, well, as somebody who's reasonably internet savvy in comparison to some of those politicians who are talking about Skynet, like, I mean, part of the major problem is like the price of it, the price of the entertainment, like in the market, like so people go get it for free on the internet, but like the law doesn't seem to be
it's
maybe
price,
the right way.
It's price and it's timeliness and its accessibility. So if you know it's there and you can get it for free, you're going to go and do that. And because the big movie companies and the record companies are locking it up and trying to hold it back from you and charge you more amounts of money, they're being left out. But they've still got enormous power and they are wielding that power, and you know there's still a lot to go on this issue. But we have to address the whole issue.
Now we've only got about 5 minutes left before students have to rush off to the lectures, myself included. So I just wanted, there's 2 final sort of areas, South Dunedin, your electorate, and social media. So just briefly on social media, you set up the Red Alert blog with a number of your colleagues. I thought it was very impressive, and it's been very good. It's been a refreshing way for MPs to communicate. But lately, there's been a lot of criticism of it. It seems to have gone downhill, and people were talking about, even Labor people were talking about it sort of maybe becoming redundant, maybe needing to be closed down. What's going on?
Well, I think that you know, shutting down a mechanism that can engage between people and politicians is a bit of a dumb idea, really.
Yeah,
I certainly think it's got a way to go in its evolution and, you know, as a strategic tool for Labor, but I think it's a really, has been and will continue to be a really useful way for politicians to write
but
and
there seem
to
to be
float
fewer
ideas.
Labor politicians actually using it, and you know, Phil Goff doesn't seem to use it, and some Labor people have started criticising it, saying that it's like press releases, you're just pumping out press releases on it.
Well, you know, I think that sounds like a kind of propaganda attack to me, Bryce,
Quite
actually.
possibly, but
you know, that's good feedback. But, you know, I think what you've, you know, if you, I don't know, be interesting to know if any students are doing analyses of the role that Red Alert plays. It's a great way to float ideas, to have genuine discourse, to put up sort of quirky, interesting stuff, and to do some really substantive analysis of policy.
so have you? It's evolved over time. So is there any sort of lessons you've learnt from it?
Yeah,
that,
lots of lessons. I mean, and
ways
one of
to
the
improve it, or you know, what's?
Yeah. One of the things that you need to know, though, is that it is produced by MPs. We're all really busy people doing our own thing, and that we manage it ourselves. So the ones of us who feel motivated to write a lot and to use that as a medium are the ones that use it the most. And some use it, dip in and out.
Okay.
I'd encourage more of us to use it more regularly.
Okay, what about Twitter? You seem to be the queen of Twitter in New Zealand. You've got about nearly 2,000 followers. You've tweeted, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of times. What's all that about?
I like communicating.
Okay.
And it's a great tool. I use Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
Facebook is like your lounge room.
Yeah.
It's like a place where you have kind of more intimate discussions with people. It's less confrontational, and you can, I guess, just have chats. Twitter is much more, I guess, combative. And I've got a lot of interaction with people overseas on Twitter. That's where I get a lot of breaking news, a lot of interesting articles. Sure. It's much more, I suppose, controversial.
But some people say that Twitter kind of dumbs things down, and I know you're critical of dumbing down of politics, but because you've only got, 140 characters, you can't really be very detailed and nuanced and what's your response to that?
It requires discipline to get your message into 140 characters, I think, but I certainly think you can still communicate effectively through it. Yes, there are risks attached to that, and that's why you don't see many national MPs tweeting, because I think they've got a different attitude to social media than Labor. Labor, and this is the difference, what you see is what you get with Labor politicians. Okay. It's like, we are out there, we are doing it, we are real.
Okay. Turning a bit to South Dunedin, or Dunedin North, Dunedin South. Actually, tell me that. What's the difference between Dunedin South and South Dunedin? It might sound like an inane question, but... Well,
a rather big piece of geography.
Yeah.
Tip of the Otago Peninsula down to the Taieri River. It's a big electorate.
When I was asking around, someone said, I'll ask you this because they had the impression, and they live in the electorate, that you're much more focused on South Dunedin than Dunedin South. So is that something you can concisely give an explanation for? We're running out of time.
South Dunedin, or South D, is the most concentrated, one of the most concentrated, densely populated, lower socioeconomic parts of our country with some really significant issues. Yes, it has been a focus of mine because it hasn't had a voice, and that's what I've been trying to develop. But I do speak for the whole electorate, and I'm doing work in lots of different parts of the electorate.
Sure. Okay, so just winding up now, predictions for the election. Yourself, you've got a 6,500 majority. What's it going to be after November 26th?
I have no idea. I'm just doing my best to get out there and talk to as many people as I can and show people that I'm sticking up for their issues.
Okay, and will you be running again in 2014?
Very likely.
Very likely. Okay, and just quickly, is Winston Peters going to be back in? We've got him next week on the stage here.
Well, I have no idea. What is that man doing? Could he tell us?
Okay, very good. Well, that's all we've got time for at the moment. Next week we have at least 2 vote chats. We've got your colleague Carol Beaumont on Friday at 12 o'clock, but before that we've got Winston Peters at 11 a.m. And the day before that, Thursday, sorry I'm going backwards here a bit, it looks like we might have a special mystery MP coming along. So I'd encourage everyone to tune back in or come along here to the media studios and take part. Thanks, Claire.
Great.